The smoke over the ruined defense tower drifted like torn curtains, rising slowly into the pale morning sky. Daniel Hayes stood alone at the highest surviving platform, his clothes covered in dust and burn marks. He wasn't a soldier, not even close. He was an engineer, someone who repaired broken turbines, patched damaged circuits, and stayed far from battles whenever he could. But battles had a way of reaching people who wanted nothing to do with them, and today was proof. His ears still rang from the last blast. Metal debris clattered down the cracked floor as the wind pressed against the broken structure. Daniel's hands shook as he held a small toolkit he had carried for safety, though it now felt useless in a war that didn't care about tools or logic or quiet minds. He thought he was alone. Then the air changed. A heavy hum rolled across the sky as bright shapes descended from the clouds, sleek vessels of silver and white, their wings glowing like folded stars. Daniel stumbled back, feeling the vibration of their landing thrusters shake the ground beneath him. He had seen these ships on screens, always from a safe distance. Seeing them in person made his heart race in a way he couldn't control. The Dominion had arrived. Tall alien guards stepped out first, their armor sharp and symmetrical, their movements unnervingly calm. Daniel froze. They weren't pointing weapons at him, but they didn't need to. Their presence alone felt like a command to stay still or be crushed. And then she appeared. The queen of the ruler of 7 spiral systems stepped out from a glowing pod at the center of their formation. Her height alone was imposing, but there was something strangely peaceful about the soft light around her. Her crown wasn't metal but carved from living crystal, strands of glowing energy weaving through it like roots holding a star in place. Her eyes, bright silver with flecks of blue, scanned the battlefield with calm authority. Daniel could hardly breathe as he stood in the glowing chamber of the flagship. The walls shimmered with moving light, like the surface of a star reflected in liquid glass. Queen hovered a few feet from him, her wings slightly open, the soft hum of her crown vibrating through the air. For the first time, Daniel realized the humans who had called her terrifying were not exaggerating. She radiated authority, but there was something else here too, something that made him feel. Smaller, yes, but also strangely protected. He still couldn't understand why she had knelt, why she had treated him like someone important. His mind raced through memories, burnt towers, broken machines, terrified civilians. He had never done anything heroic. He was not a soldier, not a leader, not a hero of any story. He was just Daniel. But the queen looked at him differently. Her glowing eyes softened, and for a moment she seemed almost human. "Sit," she said, motioning to a small platform. Her voice carried a musical weight, commanding but patient. "You must hear why I came." Daniel obeyed, slumping onto the smooth surface. His fingers fidgeted nervously. I don't understand. Why me? I'm nobody. I barely know anything about space, about politics, about war. I'm just a mechanic." Walked slowly around him, her wings brushing the air like silent sails. "You misunderstand. Your insignificance is only in your own mind. To the galaxy, you are legacy." Daniel's eyebrows knit together. "Legacy? What do you mean?" She stopped in front of him and held out a crystalline shard, glowing with swirling colors. "Long before the ruled the spiral systems, before empires rose and fell, our story spoke of another race, one distant and fragile, one whose presence could shape the stars themselves if awakened, humans. And among them, a chosen one is born once in 1,000 generations, the one who carries the prime resonance." Daniel's jaw tightened. He shook his head. You're talking about myths, legends. I can't be special. I'm me. I screw up turbines and occasionally spill oil on myself." The queen's gaze did not waver. "Legends are only stories until they choose to become truth. And in you, I feel the resonance I have searched for decades. It hides, sleeping, but it answers to you." Daniel stared at the shard. It pulsed in his hand as if it recognized him, warm and alive. His mind spun. Nothing in his life had prepared him for this. His parents, his friends, his no one had ever believed he could do anything extraordinary. And yet, here was a being who knelt before him, who called him air, who held a crystal that seemed to glow because of his presence. Fear and awe tangled in his chest. I don't know what to do. I don't even know what this resonance is. Knelt slightly, lowering her own height to his level. It is not power in the way you fear, Daniel. It is influence, a harmonic force born from emotion, from courage, from survival itself. Untrained, it can cause chaos. Guided, it can heal worlds, calm storms, and change the hearts of those who fight. You feel it because it listens to you. Daniel's hands shook. He looked down at them as if expecting to see electricity or fire leaping from his skin. Nothing happened, but the air hummed faintly like a chord played underwater. "Why me?" he whispered. "Why now?" His eyes softened, her wings folding a little. "Because the galaxy is breaking, and the one who can restore its balance is never the one who seeks glory. It is the one who doubts themselves, the one who fears but continues, the one who believes in life even when surrounded by death. That is why you, Daniel Hayes, have been chosen." Daniel swallowed hard. He wanted to laugh, but the sound caught in his throat. He wanted to cry, but the tears felt too heavy for words. He wanted to run, to hide, to leave the glowing shard behind and go back to fixing turbines. But deep inside, something shifted. A warmth stirred in his chest, strange and fragile. A feeling that maybe, just maybe, he could be more than he had ever imagined. Extended a hand. "I will teach you. I will help you understand what you carry. But first, you must accept that this is not a gift. It is a responsibility, and responsibility is heavier than any throne." Daniel stared at her hand, then at the shard, then back into the Queen's silver-blue eyes. The world around them, broken, chaotic, terrifying, felt different. It was no longer only smoke and ruins. It was full of possibility. He hesitated. His fear screamed, his mind begged him to refuse. But the voice in his heart, small, trembling, human, whispered a single word. "Yes." And that was the moment his life stopped being ordinary forever. The first few days aboard the flagship were disorienting for Daniel. The corridors seemed to shift as if alive, glowing softly beneath his feet, with walls that pulsed in rhythm with some hidden heartbeat. He wandered through them, unsure if he was exploring or being led. Every glance from the Queen reminded him that he was no longer an ordinary man. Ordinary people did not draw the attention of rulers, or travel among stars, or hold in their hands a shard that thrummed with life. Queen did not push him. She walked alongside him with her wings folded, teaching him in quiet moments. "Prime resonance is not power to dominate," she said one afternoon as they stood overlooking a nebula, its pink and gold clouds swirling endlessly. "It responds to your emotions, your will, your choices. A wrong thought can escalate disaster. A calm heart can restore peace where weapons fail." Daniel's brow furrowed. "I don't even know how to control it. I'm not like you. I don't fight battles. He gestured helplessly. "I fix broken things. Machines, pipes, engines, that's it." Smiled faintly, a curve that softened her otherworldly features. "You misunderstand yourself. Every life you touch, every choice you make, resonates outward. You already fix things, people, situations, hopes. The difference is that now the universe can feel it." Daniel felt a weight settle on his chest. He wanted to run. He wanted to crawl back to Earth and pretend this had never happened. But when he looked at the Queen, her faith in him was unshakable. She did not kneel this time, but her wings remained slightly open, her presence shielding him from doubt, even as his own mind screamed that he was unworthy. The first real test came sooner than he expected. The ship shuddered violently, alarms blaring as the sensors detected an incoming fleet of separatists, rogue who rejected the Queen's rule. Daniel was pulled into the command deck as crew scrambled. Plasma cannons lined the walls, and holographic screens flashed red with enemy positions. His stomach twisted. I can't fight," he stammered. "I'm not a soldier, I can't." His hand rested lightly on his shoulder. "You will not fight to kill, you will fight to guide. Let the resonance respond." Daniel swallowed hard, his heart racing. He closed his eyes and tried to picture calmness, his parents' home, the hum of machinery, the quiet of the workshop back on Earth. His mind shook with fear. This isn't enough, he thought. It will never be enough. The ship trembled under enemy fire. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, and Daniel's chest heaved. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, the hum of the resonance began. It was subtle at first, a vibration in the air that made the lights flicker, a warmth that spread through his hands and chest. Crew members froze mid-motion, their panic dissolving into cautious calm. His eyes widened. "Yes, feel it, let it flow." Daniel opened his eyes. The ships, once aggressive and precise, faltered in their approach. Daniel could feel something, threads of energy weaving through space, through minds, through hearts. It was not strength, not firepower. It was understanding. It was a human heartbeat touching a galaxy and asking it to pause. He shook. I didn't do anything," he whispered. The Queen stepped closer, her voice low but certain. "You did more than anything a weapon could. You made them hesitate. You reminded them that they are not alone in this universe." Daniel's fingers twitched, and a soft glow traced along the edges of the shard in his pocket. He realized, with a mixture of fear and awe, that the resonance was stronger when he did not try to control it with force. It flowed from him when he simply felt, simply wished peace, simply believed that life mattered. He thought of Earth, of people who had laughed at his mistakes, of the small joys he had ignored, of the kindnesses he had never recognized as important, and the resonance expanded, brushing the ship, touching the Queen, reaching even the separated enemy fleet. The battle paused, not because anyone had fired a weapon, but because they all felt the same thing, the presence of something greater than war. Daniel collapsed onto the floor, shaking and drained. He had not fought, had not commanded, had not killed. Yet the outcome was undeniable. The universe had listened. Knelt beside him, her silver-blue eyes reflecting pride, concern, and something Daniel had never imagined seeing: absolute trust. "You are more than you know, Daniel, more than a mechanic, more than a soldier. You are the balance this galaxy has been waiting for." Daniel shook his head weakly. I'm just scared." She smiled, brushing a hand across his shoulder. "Good. Fear is not weakness. It is proof that you care. And caring, even when afraid, is what makes you strong." For the first time, Daniel felt the weight of a name he did not yet understand: heir of the first star. The burden pressed against him, yet he no longer wanted to run. He wanted to learn, to survive, to find the way to be more than he ever believed he could. And he knew deep inside that the Queen would never let him face this alone. The warning lights flashed red across the flagship. A low siren wailed, echoing through the metallic corridors. Daniel Hayes felt the vibration through his chest before he even looked at the screens. Enemy ships, Rogue, the Separatists, were closing fast. Their weapons glinted like shards of ice, and Daniel could see the intent in their flight patterns. Strike first, kill the Queen, capture the human. Panic surged through him. He was not a soldier. He had never fought a battle in his life. He had only fixed broken things: machines, engines, wires. But here, in the trembling hull of the flagship, he realized that this time he could not fix anything with a wrench. His hands shook as he gripped the edge of a control panel. Queen appeared beside him, her wings folded tightly, her eyes sharp with focus. "Stay close," she said calmly, though the air vibrated with energy. "Do not panic. Let the resonance guide you." Daniel's heartbeat thundered in his ears. I don't know how. I don't know what to do." "Do not think, feel," she commanded. "It will respond to what is inside you." The first blast hit the outer shields. Sparks flew, alarms screamed. Crew members ducked behind consoles. Daniel flinched as debris rattled around him. For a moment, the world seemed to shrink to the size of the room, the chaos pressing down on him like a weight too heavy to lift. He closed his eyes. He thought of Earth. He thought of the quiet mornings, the hum of turbines, the smell of rain on metal roofs. He thought of his family, laughing and alive, unaware of the galaxy burning around him. He imagined the people who had fought and died on this ship, and he felt their fear, their hope, their longing for something better. A soft warmth spread through his chest. The air around him began to hum. A faint glow traced his hands and wrists. He opened his eyes and saw the shimmer ripple outward, brushing the edges of the room. The ships froze in their approach. Their weapons wavered. Their aggression faltered. Daniel's mind raced. I didn't do this, I didn't even try. Yet the resonance pulsed stronger and brighter. His fear fed it, but so did something else. Something quiet, human, untrained, hope. His eyes widened. Yes, let it flow, she whispered. Her wings fluttered like sails caught in wind. Do not control it, do not resist it, just be. The Separatists' attack halted mid-flight. Daniel saw their ships twitch, engines faltering, weapons disengaging. He realized that the resonance was touching them, not with force, not with fear, but with understanding. Even in the middle of war, they felt something they had not expected, the possibility of choice, of mercy. The ship trembled again, smaller blasts rattling the decks, but Daniel felt a new calm threading through him. He raised his hands instinctively, the shard in his pocket glowing softly. The energy seemed to listen, responding to his trembling heartbeat, his unspoken desire for no more bloodshed. His voice broke through his awe. Look at them. They kneel not because of command, but because they understand. You are not a weapon, Daniel. You are the reminder of what matters. Daniel's legs gave way. He sank to the floor, exhausted. He had not fired a weapon. He had not ordered anyone to stop. He had simply existed, and the galaxy had shifted around him. Crouched beside him, her glowing eyes meeting his. You see now, do you not? Your presence alone is a force, stronger than any cannon, more feared than any fleet, and yet it is mercy that gives it meaning. Tears welled in Daniel's eyes. He shook his head. I don't understand any of this. I'm not ready. I can't. I'm just a man. You are enough, she said simply. That is the miracle. That is the reason I knelt. Not because of myth, not because of legend, but because the human before me is exactly what the galaxy needs. Courage that does not boast, power that does not demand, mercy that inspires. Through the reinforced windows, Daniel watched the ships pull back, retreating without fire. The crew whispered among themselves, awe and relief blending into disbelief. Even the Queen's own guards seemed hesitant, their usual stoicism shaken by what they had witnessed. Daniel lay there, exhausted but alive, the weight of responsibility settling upon him. He realized that his life would never be ordinary again. He would never see the world as small, broken, or insignificant. The universe had already begun to listen, and it would never forget the human who refused to kill to win. And in the quiet aftermath, as the hum of the ship filled the void, Daniel knew one thing clearly. The Queen had not knelt in weakness. She had knelt in faith. And he, terrified and trembling, had become the hope she had always believed he could be. The aftermath of the assault left the flagship in an uneasy quiet. Sparks still flickered along walls, smoke rose from minor hull breaches, and crew members hurried to repair what they could. But the most important thing, the one thing no sensors or reports could measure, was the change in Daniel Hayes. Something had shifted inside him. He sat alone in a corner of the observation deck, staring at the shard in his hands. It pulsed softly, in rhythm with his heartbeat. He didn't understand how or why, only that it felt alive and somehow aware of him. His palms were sweaty, his chest tight, yet there was a strange clarity that hadn't existed before. Queen appeared beside him without sound. Her wings barely moved, yet Daniel felt a presence that filled the room. She crouched, careful not to startle him, and spoke softly. Do you feel it? He nodded, unsure of words. Something, it's inside me. I can feel it, but I don't know what it is. It's like the ship, the fleet, even the stars are listening to me. I don't know how to control it. She smiled, faint but proud. Control is not the goal, awareness is. The resonance flows through you as it always has. It is your fear, your hope, your choices. Do not try to dominate it. Let it guide, let it respond, let it speak through you. Daniel looked up startled. Through me. Yes, you are the first human in centuries to awaken it fully. And it responds to empathy, to understanding, to mercy. It does not obey commands. It obeys hearts. He shook his head, overwhelmed. I can't even save myself half the time. How can I save anyone else? Reached out and rested a hand on his shoulder. Warmth spread through him where she touched. You already saved them. You saved the fleet from war without a single shot fired. You stopped destruction. That is more than many generals or empires have ever done. Daniel swallowed hard. His mind drifted back to the corridors where the separatists had paused, hesitant, their weapons frozen in disbelief. He had not willed them to stop. He had simply existed, and the resonance had done the rest. The weight of that realization pressed on him. He had power, a kind of power he didn't ask for, didn't want, and still barely understood. Then what now? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. I don't know what to do with this. I can't just sit here. The Queen's gaze softened, unwavering. Now you learn. Now you awaken fully. The galaxy is not waiting for a savior who knows everything. It is waiting for a human who dares to act with heart. Suddenly, alarms blared across the deck. Daniel tensed, ready to run for cover, but held him back. Focus. Breathe. Feel. Outside the observation windows, a fleet of separatist ships lingered at the edge of the nebula. Their weapons were still pointed, but their formations wavered. Daniel closed his eyes, letting the resonance flow. He didn't think about battle plans. He didn't try to command. He simply wished for understanding, for connection, for the chance to avoid unnecessary death. A pulse of light spread from him, gentle but undeniable. It brushed the enemy ships like a warm tide. Systems flickered, crew members froze mid-motion, and the fleet seemed to hesitate, caught in the invisible current of emotion Daniel didn't yet fully comprehend. He opened his eyes. The separatist ships were no longer advancing aggressively. Their movements were careful, cautious, almost curious. Daniel's heart raced. He had not aimed, he had not planned, yet the result was undeniable. His presence alone had calmed the fleet. Queen's voice was almost reverent. You have awakened fully. This is the resonance of mercy, stronger than any weapon, stronger than fear, and it flows through you effortlessly. Daniel's knees buckled as exhaustion washed over him. I didn't do anything. You did, she said, kneeling beside him. Her wings wrapped lightly around his shoulders, a protective embrace. You reminded warriors that they have a choice, that life matters, that even in war mercy can guide them. He leaned against her, trembling. The shard's glow dimmed slightly as if acknowledging his surrender to understanding rather than fear. Daniel realized that this was only the beginning. He could not undo what had been unleashed, and he did not fully know how to shape it. But for the first time, he understood one truth clearly. He could save lives without fighting, without weapons, without violence. And that, more than any accolade or title, was the awakening he had never asked for but desperately needed. The flagship's corridors hummed with uneasy energy. Daniel Hayes walked alongside Queen, his hands still trembling from the resonance he had barely begun to understand. The crew whispered as they passed, eyes wide with awe and confusion. Even the Queen's personal guards, disciplined and unflinching, glanced at him with a mixture of respect and caution. Daniel's heart pounded. He had faced the separatist fleet, awakened his resonance, and calmed a battle without lifting a weapon, but the galaxy was bigger than any one fleet. The High Council, rulers of dozens of systems, awaited him in the crystalline council chamber. He knew what they would think. They had no way of measuring the quiet, unseen force he had unleashed. To them, it might look like a threat, or worse, manipulation. As they entered the chamber, the vast hall shimmered with living crystal. Counselors of every system, their forms elegant and alien, turned to study him. The air was thick with judgment. Moved to his side, wings partially open, signaling that she would not let him face this alone. A counselor spoke first, his voice like breaking glass. "Queen, why have you brought this human here? He is untrained, untested, and his presence alone could destabilize entire star systems. How can you vouch for him?" Daniel's mouth went dry. He opened it, then closed it, unsure how to explain. He was just a man, a human who fixed turbines and once spilled oil on his own shoes. He had no training, no authority, no right to stand before these rulers. His voice cut through the tension, because he acted when many would have destroyed. He reminded fleets that even in war they have choices. His resonance is not a weapon. It is a reminder that life matters. One of the elder counselors hissed, her long fingers tapping the crystalline desk. "And if this resonance turns against us, if he decides to command entire systems without permission, have you considered that, Queen?" Daniel's hands clenched. He wanted to shrink into the floor, but the shard in his pocket pulsed lightly, as if urging him to speak. He took a deep breath, his voice shaking but loud enough for all to hear. "I don't want to command anyone. I don't want to rule. I don't want power. I only want the fighting to stop. I don't want anyone to die because of me or because of anyone else. That's all." A quiet wave passed through the council chamber. The words were simple, almost human, yet the emotion behind them carried like a signal through the air. Several counselors exchanged glances, some lowering their heads in uncertainty. Daniel realized with a mix of fear and hope that they were listening, really listening. One young counselor, her eyes wide and trembling, asked softly, "And if you fail, if your resonance cannot reach them?" Daniel shook his head, heart racing. "I don't know. I can't promise that it will work every time, but I'll try. That's all anyone can do, try, and hope that it's enough." The chamber fell silent. Eyes glimmered with pride. She stepped closer, wrapping one wing lightly around his shoulders in quiet support. "He has faced fleets and rogue factions without fire. He has saved lives without commanding armies. And he speaks with truth, not ambition. That is more than any of you can claim." For the first time, Daniel felt the enormity of his responsibility. The council could reject him, condemn him, even attempt to remove him from the Queen's side, but he had already felt the power of his presence. He had already calmed fleets, made warriors hesitate, and changed hearts without violence. He thought of the people on Earth he had loved, the friends and strangers whose lives mattered even if they were small. He thought of the crew aboard the flagship, now quietly repairing what had been broken. He thought of the separatists, hesitant and uncertain, now considering peace. Daniel raised his voice slightly, more confident. "If we fight only because we are told to fight, nothing will change. If we fight because we believe in life, because we care about each other, maybe we can find a way to stop the war. I can't do it alone, but I can show you that it's possible." Another counselor, older and stern, finally nodded. "Perhaps we have misunderstood what it means to be strong. Perhaps there is power in mercy we have forgotten." A hush fell across the chamber. Daniel realized that the resonance he carried was not just energy or influence, it was hope. And hope, once seen, could spread faster than any weapon, faster than any fleet. Bent slightly, whispering to him, "You are doing more than you know. You are teaching the galaxy to listen, to feel, to choose differently." Daniel exhaled, his hands still trembling. I just want to help, that's all." And in that moment, the chamber understood. Not because of myth, not because of legend, not because of power, but because a single human heart had refused to stop caring. The galaxy had begun to listen, swirling colors of a distant nebula. Ships from countless systems drifted nearby, weapons lowered, engines humming softly. He could feel the resonance inside him, like a tide that stretched across the void, connecting every living soul he had touched, every heartbeat he had felt, every fear he had calmed. He didn't understand it fully. He might never understand it, but he knew one thing clearly. His presence had changed the course of the war. The separatists had ceased fighting. Fleets that had been poised to attack had paused, unsure of themselves, as if the universe itself was asking, why fight when mercy is possible? Queen appeared at his side, her wings folded gently. Her eyes glimmered with something softer than the authority he had first feared. Pride, yes, but also awe. She did not kneel this time. She did not need to. The galaxy already bowed in quiet obedience to what Daniel had shown them. Hope. They are listening, she said softly. All of them, even the worlds far from here. You have done what no fleet, no weapon, no empire could do. You have reminded them that life matters. Daniel shook his head, exhausted. I didn't do it. I was scared and I wished they would see the truth. That's all. Smiled faintly. And that was enough. You do not need to command fleets or dictate peace. You only need to be human. He let out a shaky laugh, more relief than humor. Human, that feels like the simplest thing and the hardest thing at the same time. Outside, across the galaxy, systems had begun to lower their defenses. Warships coasted in formation without firing, armies paused in the middle of drills, and leaders whispered to one another across communication channels, asking quietly, can it really be this simple? Can life matter more than conquest? Daniel took a deep breath. The shard in his pocket pulsed softly, its light now steady and calm. He realized that the resonance was not power to destroy, but power to connect, to awaken empathy in others, to make the universe pause and consider a better choice. It was the most human power of all, the ability to care and to inspire care in others. He thought of Earth, of the quiet moments he had once ignored, of friends he had taken for granted. He thought of the people who had laughed at his mistakes, and of those he had never met but whose lives mattered anyway. He understood now that every small act of humanity, every act of mercy or kindness, could ripple through the cosmos if one heart held it firmly enough. Bent slightly, her voice a whisper only for him. You have ended a war, Daniel Hayes, not with a sword, not with a fleet, but with your heart. That is a miracle worth more than any crown or throne. Daniel's chest tightened. He wanted to argue, to say it wasn't him, that he was just a scared human in a universe that demanded heroes. But he saw the truth in her eyes. The galaxy had seen it too. What mattered was not titles, medals, or victories. What mattered was courage in its form, caring when it was easier to ignore, hopping when it was easier to despair, and acting when the outcome was uncertain. The flagship drifted silently as Daniel stepped forward to the railing, gazing at the scattered fleets below. Ships from once warring sides turned their bows away from conflict, following him, not because they were ordered, but because they believed that peace was possible. He sank to his knees, overwhelmed. Knelt beside him, wrapping her wings lightly around his shoulders, shielding him from the weight of the galaxy even as she shared it. You did this, she said softly, because you never stopped caring. Daniel closed his eyes. I was scared, I still am, but maybe that's enough. Maybe caring, even when scared, is all anyone needs to change things. She rested her hand on his shoulder. It is more than enough, and now the galaxy will remember that. As he opened his eyes, Daniel could see it clearly. Across the stars, the resonance he carried spread like sunlight through the void. Systems once locked in hostility were now pausing, hesitating, reconsidering. Fleets turned away from battle. Leaders reconsidered war plans. Soldiers lowered their weapons. A simple human act had become a tidal wave of hope, compassion, and mercy. He had not commanded it. He had not willed it. He had simply existed, and in doing so, reminded everyone, alien and human alike, that even one heart, fully human and fully caring, could shift the fate of worlds. Looked at him with awe, then bowed slightly, not in royal custom but in personal respect. Daniel smiled faintly, exhausted, yet filled with something stronger than fear or doubt. He had become more than a man. He had become a reminder. Hope, courage, and humanity could change a galaxy. And in that quiet, shining moment, Daniel Hayes understood the truth that had brought the Queen to her knees so many days before. Sometimes HFY isn't about strength or weapons. It's about the one human who refuses to stop caring. The galaxy would never forget him. Daniel's breath caught in his chest. He had seen her in broadcasts, always commanding, always distant, always terrifying in a way that made humans sit up straight. But here in the ruins of the tower she looked strangely human, tired, burdened, almost sad. Her gaze moved across the wreckage, then landed on him. For a moment she said nothing. The guards watched her carefully, waiting for her command. Daniel felt like a bug under a magnifying glass. He swallowed hard, trying to step back, but his legs refused to listen. Her wings folded tightly behind her. The light on her crown dimmed, and she exhaled so softly that the dust near her feet stirred in a small circle. Then the unthinkable happened. Queen took a step toward him, slow, deliberate, almost fragile. Her eyes softened, her shoulders lowered, and she stopped just a few feet away. Daniel held his breath, unsure if he should speak or run or drop to the floor. Instead, she did something that froze everyone, even the guards who had seen wars that lasted generations. She fell to her knees. Not aggressively, not in surrender. In recognition. Daniel blinked rapidly, trying to understand what he was seeing. His mind rejected it. Royalty didn't kneel. Queens didn't kneel. Alien rulers didn't kneel to exhausted human engineers who had never held a weapon properly in their life. But she did. And when she bowed her head, the faint glow of her crown brushed against the cracked tiles at his feet. A wave of shock passed through the guards. A few gasped softly. One dropped his weapon in disbelief. Never in their history, not in archived memory, not in ancient songs, had their queen knelt before any being. Daniel's mouth opened, but no words came. His heartbeat pounded in his ears. He pushed a dusty lock of hair from his face, feeling horribly exposed. Her voice, when it finally came, was gentle but powerful, like distant thunder softened by wind. At last, the lost heir stands before me. Daniel stared at her, his confusion deepening until he felt almost dizzy. What? I'm not, I don't. He shook his head quickly. I'm just a maintenance worker, I fix things, I'm no heir to anything. A warm breeze brushed against them, carrying ash, carrying silence. But the queen lifted her head slowly, her eyes glowing brighter than before, full of belief he didn't understand. Human, she whispered, you do not yet know who you are. And right then, Daniel felt the world shift, not because she knelt, but because she believed something about him that he couldn't possibly believe about himself. It was the beginning of everything.